Hello there, welcome along. This is Point of View. My name's Mark Leishman and my guest is Jenna Smith from the Dairy Women's Network. Jenna comes from a rural upbringing. She'll tell us a wee bit about that. She comes from the south but is currently based in the Hauraki district. Enjoys fishing with the kids, getting back to Otago as much as she can, a marathon runner no less, and enjoys fundraising for the Starship Foundation. And still has time to be a Dairy Women's Network trustee. So I'm exhausted even talking about it, but welcome via Zoom, Jenna Smith. Nice to meet you.
Kia ora, Mark.
So tell us a wee bit about that background, the story, the journey so far for you.
Yeah, so I grew up in Otago on the Tairi Plains, and from farming family, was always keen to be involved and out and about on the land. I wasn't much of a academic in my early years. But that, built a good foundation for me to look to agriculture as a career once I finished school. And so, with the support of my family, that's what I did.
So you went off to uni. What, did you go to Lincoln, or what was the story there?
No, I did not follow the traditional go to Lincoln and or Massey insert university here, but no, I went straight to a hands-on role on farm, so as a dairy farm assistant down in Clydevale, South Otago.
Oh, okay. So that's when the dairy career started, and so where has that taken you?
Yeah, so from there I enrolled in industry training, and through that, I had the opportunity to take up a role on a dairy farm in the sort of Catlins area with Landcorp, and that exposure to that, I guess, larger corporate farming model showed me that there was lots of different pathways that the dairy industry offered, and with their support and guidance, I was able to move into a bit more of a business type role rather than the hands-on milking the cows. And so that brought me to the Waikato, and that started really the business side of my career.
So that's fascinating, isn't it? And is it, obviously with the way you've gone, it's been really good for you and your career. Would you recommend it, obviously, for young people today? I know there's always a shortage of people going into the primary industries, and yet there are so many opportunities, aren't there?
Oh, there is, yeah. And I think if we, I hear this so often, if we could only tell our story better, but I think if we can just expose a lot of those opportunities, there's not one sort of cookie cutter route to success in the agricultural industry, particularly the dairy industry. There's so many offshoots that we could look at, and you probably find the right fit for you somewhere aligned.
Now, of course, you grew up in Otago, so one would have probably assumed that if you, as you say, followed the path, ticked the right boxes, you'd be still in Otago, but not. You're in the Hauraki district, which is quite a contrast, really, particularly temperature-wise.
Yes, quite. It's actually my second time round living here. So when I worked for Landcorp, I took a role up here on the Hauraki Plains, and I was here for 3 years, and that's where I met a nice Waikato dairy farmer. And long story short, we got married and decided to go share milking. I wasn't a big fan of the Waikato droughts during the summer for cash flow reasons, so suggested that perhaps we go back to the more summer safe Otago, South Otago, Canterbury areas to look at dairy farming for ourselves down there.
And is that what you did?
Yep. So we spent the next 7 or 8 years share milking through South Otago and South Canterbury.
Yes.
So during that time, I did a bit of a combination of trying to work on farm alongside my husband, but quickly realising that I was missing out on my corporate buzz. So picked up another couple of roles, initially with Landcorp, and then I moved on to working with some investment farming companies, such as My Farm and Ag Invest in Aquila and in Southland and Canterbury.
That's interesting, isn't it? Because obviously you were on farm with your husband. Presumably, did you do those roles from that base, or did you actually have to get into the corporate clothing and go into town?
Yeah, no, a bit of a hybrid. So into the corporate clothing and into town, a lot of travel, a lot of very long days, you know, time away from home because commuting from Southland to Canterbury. So a lot of juggling, and then add 2 children into the mix over that time. Something had to give eventually, which is how we've ended back up in the Hauraki Plains.
So that's fairly typical of women in, I guess, corporate farming. I mean, women in general, isn't it? That you're sort of torn between so many different areas. You've got to sort of make it work, and then there's the children. You must be organisational, well, queens, who I guess you are.
Yeah, I think adaptive by nature, but probably just adaptive by need. So yes, I was reasonably organised in those days. We were running quite a few whiteboards that were colour coded as to who had to be where and when, and no, you can't milk, you need to pick up the kids from school. Yes, I can pick up the kids from here while you've heard test, or you soon adapt. But I like I said, we felt for us we weren't giving 100 to anything in particular, so something had to give. So
is this how you arrived at your current role, and could you tell us a wee bit about what that is?
During the summer, I guess, of 2018, a lot of the investment farms that I was looking after down in Canterbury and Southland were on the market to be sold, and so that gave or prompted the opportunity for us to reevaluate what our time would look like. So having not given 100 to everything, we felt the kids were definitely the top priority as needing 100, and the role was advertised up here with Poa Farms, which is an iwi-owned farming business on the Hauraki Plains. So I thought I'd just chuck my name in the hat and see what happened. Didn't really, it's kind of my style, sort of leap first, think later. But lo and behold, I got through that process, and the opportunity was presented to come up here. So another short period of commuting whilst my husband tidied things up with our share milking agreements down in Canterbury, but and I lived up here, so a little bit more commuting. But we are now very settled on the Hauraki Plains, and I'm extremely lucky to work for this organisation. The 5 iwi owners of this business just have been nothing but a pleasure to work for, and just to I guess come out of investment farming and go into something with such a intergenerational long-term view, and really looking after the land to return for many more years to come is quite rewarding and refreshing for me.
Now, can you tell us, is that different to what you're used to in the sense of the way they approach their farming?
Yeah, it is different in that it's not necessarily profit first or production first. It's people first, and followed very closely by planet. So when you start lining all of those things up, it's amazing that they do all work quite nicely together anyway, and you seem to get a bit of everything. But yeah, certainly refreshing, not solely focusing on profit and production.
So is it one farm owned by 5 iwi, or is it 5 farms, or how does the system work?
So it was a land corp farm, and in the purchase date from the 5 iwi, so 5 iwi part of a collective of 12, through their treaty settlement process, identified that this land was potentially going to be sold by the Crown. So they, through that negotiation process, alluded to they would like to have this land back. It was their land initially, and so through that negotiation process, they came to the point where they purchased the land back off the Crown in 2013. That was the largest on-account treaty settlement in the history, and I think it still is. So as part of that, Landcorp stayed on and she milked the 8 dairy farms for 5 years. And at the end of that 5-year period, that's when I came on, and the iwi went into full ownership operation mode. So so that was 8 or 9 dairy farms that they've purchased. We've now got the 9 dairy farms, a dry stock block, a blueberry orchard. We have multiple different value add milk opportunities that we're pursuing. We have red meat deals. We have, like I said, the blueberry orchard is for an export opportunity. We're working on a carbon sink at the moment. We're looking at different regenerative opportunities. We've got honey with Comvita. So yeah, we're trying a bit of everything.
My goodness, and you're in charge of the lot. Is that the role? You've got an overview of everything.
Yeah, I came on as the chief executive, and that sort of, I guess, gives me a nice position to look over the asset, look at what we've got, and look at all the opportunities that present us. I think when you are looking at the asset or the land as being the most important part of your business, then you start to think differently about why are we wedded to one commodity type, or are we solely just dairy farmers? Are we solely just beef farmers? What else can we be? What actually does the land want us to be? So hence we've delved into a lot of different operations. May not be the most profitable per hectare, but as a whole it balances, and we're actually returning quite nicely now to our shareholders.
Very sustainable as well. I mean, you've got so many options. Should the dairy industry take a bit of a dive, which it's not going to do in the very near future by the looks of things. But you've got your bases pretty well covered, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. And it certainly keeps me from getting bored. So if I've got a finger in lots of different pies.
Well, my guest point of view is Jenna Smith. She's a Dairy Women's Network trustee and CEO of Poarua, the iwi trust on the Hauraki Plains. And we'll have a lot more to find out about Jenna and what her thoughts are on the Dairy Women's Network coming after this break. We'll see you shortly. Welcome back. This is Point of View. My name is Mark Leishman, and my guest is Jenna Smith, CEO of the Poarua Iwi Partnership, and she's also a trustee on the Dairy Women's Network, and a very, very busy person. Judging, I'm exhausted just listening to your first half. What you get to do. What are your ambitions, I guess, for the Dairy Women's Network? Yeah,
look, I think the Dairy Women's Network is a really safe space for not just women, but mainly women who are involved in dairy farming, whether that be grassroots on the ground or through rural professional avenues, to come together and just find that connection. It's a really supported learning environment. There's great opportunity for, I guess, advancement of our women in whatever way they sort of strive. So it would be really lovely, to see that network continue to grow. Particularly, it's been reasonably difficult recently to have that, face-to-face connection with people. Hence, you and I are sitting in a Zoom, but that's also been the case for our network. Over the last couple of years, we've had to, really readjust and go with online connection, and after 2 years, it's starting to take a toll. So my ambition would be to see that face-to-face connection coming back, and just, coming out of this and growing a stronger network. So your role as a trustee, how much time does that take? Is it pretty extensive, or will you do meetings? Presumably, again, it's over Zoom. Yeah, recently it's been over Zoom, yes. We meet 6 times a year as a board, and we also, hold a couple of different strategy days and bits and pieces. And then as a board, we, are encouraged to, but also, really lucky to get the opportunity to participate in a lot of the events. So how much time does it involve, Jenna? I mean, are you away a lot? Or, presumably not now with Zoom, but generally speaking, on a normal situation, would it be pretty time consuming? I wouldn't call it time consuming. We meet as a board 6 times a year. Usually that's in Hamilton, so not too far from me, luckily. The requirement to participate in a lot of the network events or get-togethers is there, but I mean, it's not so much of a requirement when it's an opportunity to meet some fantastic women throughout the industry, but also our network partners that come along and facilitate and help run those events.
I've met a number of dairy women networkers, and it seems to me it's a really good way for people, particularly women on farm, to learn new skills and to sort of break out of that sort of being in the office perhaps and doing the books and that sort of thing. You know, it's a good way to learn.
Absolutely, and like-minded people in a room, always helps people, feel at ease in a learning environment. But also there's something for everybody. I think we do meet, there's the farming couple who really want to succeed and persevere with business opportunities. We can get through in business groups with them where they're really deep diving into financial opportunities and a deeper understanding of what makes their business tick, and then we can bring it right back to just simply a connection on a friendship level. So I think there is something for everybody along the way, and that's what makes it unique, right?
Now, there's a new role that has been established with the Dairy Women's Network. Could you tell us about this? It's to do with the board.
Yeah, so we're really excited to have created an associate trustee position. The need came about from our recognition of our members being so active in governance already on lots of different levels. So they might be in community organisations or in their local play group or something around their area, and they have a real knack or passion for seeing organisations succeed, but they really want to bring that to the industry level, but they struggle to get out of the community level of governance and into that next level. So we saw the opportunity to develop their experience, and by participating around our board table, we would hope that gives them the launch pad to continue their governance.
So what is the role and what is the process? How does one try and be involved?
The role is a sort of 14 to 16 month term as an associate director. So you come on, you're basically exposed as a full board member just without voting rights. And during that term, you'll get to participate fully in all board activities, but also have the opportunity to go through a professional development program, and also sit alongside the existing trustees, which we have some fantastic trustees on our board with all diverse skill sets that they can offer mentoring opportunities to the successful candidate.
And so presumably you go to the website and the details are there, and if you think you've got what it takes, as it were, you give it a go.
We're actually at the pointy end right now, Mark. Oh. So we've made our shortlist of a wonderful group of women. So we're very spoiled for choice at the moment.
Oh wow, well that's quite a decision to be made, so good luck with that. AgMart's involved as well. They're well known as being sort of pretty philanthropic, haven't they? They've done a lot for farming over the years. Yeah, that's right.
Look, we applied to AgMart for some funding of this. It's a pilot program. So the opportunity now that presents is that with AgMart's funding, we get to create a program that potentially can, be carbon copied and rolled out throughout different industry or sectors within our industry, for other organisations who want to create a similar role. It also, with the funding, means that we can really get that professional development for our successful candidate, and it means that they get a a true launchpad, I guess, into governance.
So, I mean, I suppose it's fantastic for the person who gets the role, and obviously you've got a lot of qualified people there who are keen to do this. What would you say the Dairy Women's Network gets from having an associate trustee involved?
Yeah, I think the role will heavily benefit the person, probably more than Dairy Women's Network, but, it's intangible, probably what we will get from it. We've got an incredibly diverse range of members in our network, and it'll bring that diversity to the table. So, there's nothing wrong with having a bit more diversity of thought around a board table, and it's something that our industries sometimes lack. So bringing a woman through who's got unique insight and is seeing the challenges and situations that are out in their local community or in their part of the dairy industry, that'll only help us with our exposure and awareness.
So the Dairy Women's Network membership, I presume, is pretty good at the moment, or has it been affected by the pandemic? And I guess plans for the future of the network?
Yeah, look, we are in a really strong position. Our members are strong and resilient people, so I don't think a pandemic will slow them down, taking a dairy woman. But look, our team in Hamilton have done a really good job of steadying the ship through what has been a pretty difficult time in event management. So we've moved to a lot of online resources to aid our connection. So we've run a lot of webinars over the last couple of months, and we'll be doing that over the next few months just while we've still got some of that instability. Most of these webinars are around people and businesses and building a really strong and resilient business to help support the people in those teams. There's also the calf rearing expos coming up, hopefully, fingers crossed, in person, which will be supported by nutritionists and key industry organisations, and they're great days. I've been to a couple, and they're really hands-on and practical, and you always learn something new.
And just before we leave you, I mean, what about this marathon running and stuff? I mean, you're giving the children 100%. You sound like you're giving the job 100%, DWN 100%, but you still have time for some fishing and some running. Are you still doing the marathons?
I am, yes. Although COVID has put paid to that a lot this year, so I managed to fit in the Kepler Challenge just at the start of the year, but everything else has mostly fallen to the wayside. But it's my sanity escape is to run.
You've got plenty of land to run on, I suppose, but is that what you do, just run around the farms, or what's the pattern?
No, I try and get out and about. No, I really like the event, eventing, and it's a good opportunity for me, I think, like you said in the intro, to do a bit of fundraising for the Starship Foundation. So people can pay to watch me suffer.
Well, thank you so much for your time. I mean, what a busy life you lead. You must be exhausted, but I imagine it's extremely fulfilling.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mark.
Point of view, my guest, Jenna Smith, and a trustee with the Dairy Women's Network, and so busy with her role with the iwi partnership. It's time to go. Thank you so much for your company. We'll have another point of view at the same time next week, and look forward to your company then.